Hello and welcome to another edition of Localized Miami. I'm your host, Robert Ruano, and today we have a very special guest, filmmaker, journalist, Billy Corben.
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening.
Good afternoon.
What is it? Good afternoon.
It's Friday at 3 o'clock right now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Great. Well, it's 9 a.m. somewhere.
Cool. How you doing? Thank you.
Happy hour.
Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for inviting me.
I've spent like the last 3 weeks watching, I said earlier, watching a lot of your content and a lot of your movies.
I'm so sorry. You over-prepared.
Maybe. Cocaine Cowboys. Great documentary. The first one.
Just the first one?
The first one and the Netflix documentary.
Kings of Miami.
Yes. I haven't seen the second one of the movie of Cocaine Cowboys, right? You have a reloaded Cocaine Cowboys.
There's Cocaine Cowboys 2, Hustling with the Godmother.
Oh, wow.
There's Cocaine Cowboys Reloaded, and then you watch the ostensibly the fourth one in the franchise, Kings of Miami, the miniseries on Netflix, that's a total reboot. That's a totally new story. You know, the Willie Falcone and Sal Magluta story, but the first 3 Cocaine Cowboys are all basically in the same universe, if you will.
Okay.
So I recommend Reloaded. It's long, but it's really, if you like the first one, it's really, really interesting.
I do. I was fascinated and fascinated by the amount of different sources you had. You know, I mean, it must have taken a lot to go through all these different entities to get all this content.
Well, if you're referring to like the archive, I'll give you an example. I think the average feature film has about 1,500 cuts, roughly, over the course of a 90 to 2 hour running time.
Okay.
Cocaine Cowboys, I think, has almost 4,000 shots. So, like, that's how much material and footage, that's how fast it moves. I mean, in addition to all, we shot ourselves on digital video, on Super 8mm film, on VHS video, on Super 16 film, on Super 35 film, and that was just what we shot, in addition to all of the found footage and archive footage, which was on just a preposterous, like, just multitude of sources. And it was tough in those days when we made it 20 years ago. Well, it came out 20 years ago, so we're making it almost 25 years ago. We were using Final Cut Pro version 2.0, whatever the hell it was, and it was really unstable because we were using so many different sources and so many different frame rates that, like, it was constantly crashing, and we couldn't get we couldn't get the the sequences stable, but it was a lot of fun. And then finding all the people that we wanted to interview, and we were kind of like casting archetypes. We were looking for a wholesaler. We were looking for a smuggler. We were looking for a hitman. We were looking for a homicide police officer, a narcotics detective, a TV journalist, a print journalist. So we had all of the a drug lawyer, all those things.
And how does that work? Did you come up with that, or did you and your partner Spellman, right?
Alfred,
Alfred Spellman. Did you all sit around the room and come up with it like Matt Damon and Affleck and say this is what we're going to do? Or
well, I have 2 partners, Alfred Spellman and David Sipkin, who we've been working together since the very beginning. Dave and I since literally preschool, we know each other. Alfred and I since television production class in Highland Oaks Middle School in Miami-Dade County Public Schools in the ninth grade. So in the early 90s, we had a TV production teacher Sheila Spicer, who literally gave us the keys to the studio and said, produce the morning news for Highland Oaks Middle School every day, and that was how we got basically partnered up.
Nice.
In production. And so we've been working together really ever since.
He went to UM too?
He went to UM and then transferred to FIU.
Okay.
And David Sipkin went to FSU because nobody's perfect. But he went. FSU happened to have at the time, and may still now. I'm less familiar with it. An outstanding film school that he attended. It was very competitive, and he was getting a really outstanding film education back in the mid to late 90s. But we had this idea of maybe doing a story about Miami in the 80s. We really wanted a calling card piece after we made Raw Deal: A Question of Consent, which was our first documentary when we were like 21, 22 years old. We were the youngest filmmakers in the history of the Sundance Film Festival at that time, the only ones from Miami. And so when we went there with this doc about the alleged a sexual assault of an exotic dancer at a fraternity house at the University of Florida. We knew we wanted to stay in like the true crime realm, but we knew we really wanted to do tales of Florida fuckery, if I can say that.
You might get bleeped.
That's all right. That's fine. So we wanted to stay in that milieu, and we really wanted a calling card piece after Sundance, and that became we called it City Made of Snow. It was actually my cousin Dave, another Dave, was at his pool in Aventura at a condo that he lived at in Aventura. This has got to be 2003, maybe. Okay. And he hit me up and he's like, I met this interesting guy at the pool. And he's like, do you know John Purnell Roberts? I'm like, no. I said, Alfred, I'm like, you know John Purnell Roberts? His eyes lit up immediately. He had recently read, there's only a handful of great books about Miami in the 80s and the cocaine wars. One is called The Cocaine Wars. There's Kings of Cocaine. And then there's The Man Who Made It Snow by Max Mermelstein. There's also a Godmother book as well. So there's like 4 of them, really. And so Alfred knew immediately who John Roberts was. He was this wholesaler of cocaine in the 1980s. He was a part of a major duty cocaine indictment that came down in the 80s. And we went to meet him. And he seemed like an interesting character. And through him, we met Mickey Monday, who was a smuggler, this kind of redneck smuggler in North Miami.
Mickey, that's the kind of cowboy guy, right?
Yeah,
from the
redneck.
Movie
He was self-proclaimed Miami redneck. From that era of like people who call it Miami.
Yeah, he was the pilot, right?
He was the pilot. Yep. He was the smuggler. He was the boat guy. He was the tow truck guy. He had a lot of creative ways to smuggle cocaine undetected, and they did for a while and made a lot of money doing it. And then, like I said, we then had to we're like, oh, let's shoot this and let's identify some of the other archetypes and reach out and started writing letters in prison to Griselda Blanco, La Madrina, and to 3 of her hitmen, Kumbamba, Jorge Riviala, Miguel Perez, to see if we could get interviews with them. And we were calling it, the title was City Made of Snow.
Okay.
That was our working title, I think inspired by the Max Mermelstein book, Man Who Made It Snow. So we called it that for a while and then realized that we wanted to eat. We wanted to make a career of this, and City Made of Snow sounded a little like highfalutin, maybe like it was a good, maybe make it a good title for like a dissertation or something or a book, but not necessarily for what we wanted to make, which was a gangster movie. And we've always called our style of nonfiction filmmaking pop docs, because in addition to the style, the selection of subject matter kind of skews toward things that are a little more pop culture centric or a little bit more entertaining. So we always approach our docs as like, not as docs, but as like, what is the genre of this movie? So Cocaine Cowboys, the question was, or City Made of Snow, it was like, what would Martin Scorsese do? Or what would Quentin Tarantino do if they were telling this story? And so really what we did was there was a lot of nonfiction at that time, mostly on cable television, and even documentary films, where you could always find a lawyer or a police officer to talk, but we wanted to do first-person productions, not they and he, but I and we. Right. And so we're like, well, Martin Scorsese would tell the story, let the bad guys tell the story. So that was kind of the idea.
And then, but before that, back up a second, if you would, because the first movie, what was the name of the first movie again?
Raw Deal, A Question of Consent.
Because I saw you on another podcast, you said, nobody's seen it. I'm trying to find it. It should come out again. Are you ever going to put that out? Because it's very interesting.
I just saw a TikTok video of a woman who like recommends docs, and she was like 5 crazy, unbelievable, must-see documentaries, and one of them was Raw Deal, A Question of Consent, our doc, which I thought nobody had heard of or seen, or certainly has long since been forgotten. And she said at the end of it, she goes, it says on screen, it says free on YouTube. And I was like, oh shit, I guess maybe someone bootlegged it.
No, you can't find it.
Are you serious?
No, it says free on YouTube, but it's something else.
So I think the problem is that it's very explicit. So it's the story, as I mentioned, of this exotic dancer who claims that she was sexually assaulted at this fraternity party, and that the entire incident was caught on video. And so what happened in that investigation in Alachua County in Gainesville was that the video footage kind of got turned around on her. So after she reported this to the police, they watched one of the 2 videos that she herself said, go find it. They had a video camera on me the whole time. The University of Florida police detective on the case, she watches one of the two videos, maybe not even in its entirety, and she flips the whole thing around. Instead of a rape investigation, it becomes an investigation into this woman for filing a false police report because the detective believes that the video depicts consensual sex and that the woman was willfully and maliciously, I guess, lying to her. And this turns into a huge scandal. The National Organization for Women starts protesting because they turned this, this accuser and this alleged rape victim into a criminal by pursuing this misdemeanor case against her. And what happens is the video footage, once they obtain all of it, under sunshine laws, under Florida public records laws, it becomes a public record. People are familiar perhaps with the concept of rape shield laws. Well, this was not a rape case, according to the police department. Wow. This was a misdemeanor filing a false police report case against the woman, and arguably, and the media successfully argued, in fact, in front of a judge, that it should be released as part of Florida open government in the sunshine laws. And it was. And it became a cause celeb in this little town, this little college town. And we heard about it from friends who we grew up with down in Miami. And what was interesting about it is that, as I heard from two different friends, male friends who I grew up with, same neighborhood, very similar backgrounds, upbringing, socioeconomic status. I say all that to say that, like, you would think that we would have kind of common or similar perspectives on things. And so I hear from one of them who says, "Oh my God, have you heard about this footage?" I said, "I have." And they said, "This is disgusting what these men do to this woman. I haven't been able to eat or sleep since I saw it at some kegger, some frat party. They got the tape. They called it the rape tape. It became like this cult, almost like Rocky Horror thing, where people would get the tape, and then if you were the first on your block, this was all VHS, so it was very slow to."
What year was this?
This was 2000.
Okay.
No, it wasn't. It was 1999.
I was going to say, you turned around in 1 year.
It was spring of 19. It was 1 year.
Yeah.
The incident was spring of 99. We decided to make it in January of 2000, and in January of 2001, we were at Park City, Utah, at the Sundance Film Festival. It was insane.
At 21 years old.
It was insane. It was reckless.
Crazy.
And I took a leave of absence from the university to make it, from the University of Miami. But anyway, long story even longer. So everything was trickling out from the clerk of courts and the state attorney's office in Alachua by VHS, sort of one dub at a time. And so if you were the first people to get the tape, then you would throw a party at your house and people would watch it, which is appalling. But that's what they were doing. And so this buddy says it was disgusting, it's horrible, but this woman I can't believe they're getting away with this. Then days later, I hear from another friend. "Have you heard about the tape?" "I've heard about the tape." And they're like, "This lying woman, she made this up. She tried to ruin these guys' life. I hope they lock her up and throw away the key." And I'm thinking to myself, much like you are, I'm like, that's interesting. Like, how could two reasonable, educated, similarly situated people watch the same video footage, which we expect to show some kind of objective truth, especially in that time, pre-AI, pre-CGI almost. Like, we expected it to... you see the footage from the 7-Eleven security camera. That's who did it. Go find that person. Open and shut case. Here, you've got people going, like, disagreeing about whether or not this was consensual or an assault. So that was really interesting to me, and that's what inspired it.
And what finally happened? Did she get
nothing happened?
Anything?
It was like the state attorney was Rod Smith, who later went on, you might recall, ran for governor for a time. He was just like a very sort of like Clintonian sort of politician. He'd go whichever way, like the polling or the wind blew. And so he could see who was protesting what. And he's like, okay, if we charge her, then we also have to charge the boys with something. He dusted off some 100-year-old statute that had never been used or hadn't been used in like a century, and charged the boys with assignation, which was like prostitution related. It was like reduced her charge and basically pled everybody out and said, let's just wash my hands of this. Everybody's unhappy. You know, I was taught by my civics teacher at New World School of the Arts, Mr. Wimmers, that the definition of a compromise is when everybody's unhappy.
Exactly.
So he made everybody unhappy in his effort to try to make everybody happy. And it was a political minefield and debacle, and he just moved on.
Did you get to interview her and everybody? Or no?
I interviewed her. I interviewed one of the 3 fraternity men who were in the private room of the Delta Chi house at the time she alleges she was assaulted, and obviously put out requests to numerous other people and didn't hear back. So, you know, we basically have people who represent the woman's interests, and then we have people who represent the fraternity men's interests. And then we cut it together. My senior class play at New World School of the Arts, high school, was Rashomon, which was a play inspired by the Akira Kurosawa film Rashomon, and it is about the assault of a woman, and it is then told through the eyes of 3 separate witnesses, and then the final act and the final scene is what really happened.
Oh, okay.
So it's basically the same scene more or less over and over and over and then over again, and it kind of is that sort of 3 sides to every story, yours, mine, and the truth, to quote Extreme. But it was that idea, like how witnesses in a game of telephone and cheese may kind of manipulate reality and the truth and justice. And so inspired by that, we did this as a he said, she said video footage. Okay. And sometimes the video supports her, sometimes the video supports them, and it was a really interesting challenge to make. That was on Final Cut Pro version 1.2. That was OG Final Cut Pro. That was tough as well at the beginning. This is in 2000. All right. We're editing this, and at my buddy Armando Salas's apartment, he was going to grad school at FSU Film School. So we'd literally just up all night editing, going to the Waffle House on Tennessee, and back to editing again. And what we did was we when I finally got it back to my place in Miami to finish the edit, we hung a sign over the editing station that said, "Welcome to the argument," because everybody who walked into the room and became engaged in the footage, whether it was the video footage, our interview footage, suddenly there was just yelling and arguing and debating, and it was actually a really healthy way to edit this movie, because every time we're an office of devil's advocates, so whenever someone takes a position, one of us will invariably take the opposite just to work it through. I would say the only thing worse than a bad idea is no ideas. It's just let's keep talking, and someone will hopefully come up with a better way of doing it.
Stagnation is nowhere.
Otherwise, we just sit around staring at each other, and we get nowhere. It's say the bad idea, say the bad version, say something stupid, and then let us engage with that, and eventually, hopefully, find our way where we want to get. We're all here working to a common goal, which is to get the best answer or the best solution to the problem. So let's just keep at it, right? So to that end, if I would go well, if we put this footage in from the men, we have to put this footage in from her. And then Alfred or Dave would counter, well, if you put this video footage in that supports her, you have to put this video footage. So there was this constant back and forth, and people would watch. The best compliments we got, it was one of our better reviewed docs for a long time, as poorly made as it is from a technical, an aesthetic standpoint. One of the best compliments we repeatedly got is that people would watch the doc and change their mind, not only from different viewings or multiple viewings, but over the course of a single viewing. They would watch the doc and change their mind. Interesting. And I think it was interesting, and I think it brought about a healthy conversation. In fact, the woman's grandmother, who was a house mom at one of the neighboring fraternity houses, she grabbed a shirt. She thought it was her dress. It turned out to be one of the guy shirts. So she was kind of half naked running out of this house at dawn. She was trying to find her grandmother at the neighboring fraternity house, but she didn't. She wound up at a different house, banging on the door, screaming and crying. And so that's how all of that started in the morning. But the grandmother said that she believed that every incoming freshman at every university in the country, if not the world, should see this documentary to have this conversation about what is consent, not to assume consent, not to coerce consent, to understand how alcohol and perhaps other substances can alter people's situations, and how to be cognizant of that and be responsible for that. And there's a really interesting point that was made, because I was in college at the time I was making it. I was at UM. I was dating a woman who went to UCF, so we lived, you know, kind of far away, and so I remember I was talking to some of the women from the National Organization for Women, the campus chapter, and they made a very interesting point. And I was only, at that point, 2 years away from my own freshman orientation at the University of Miami. And they said, during freshman orientation, they always say, hey, girls, walk along the lighted paths. Walk near the blue light emergency phones or whatever. Girls, don't dress too provocatively. Girls, when you go to a party, don't accept an open beverage from a stranger. Girls, walk in pairs. So what they never say is, boys, don't rape the girls. So immediately, the onus and the obligation and the pressure is on the women to not get assaulted, to not become a victim. So what happens if you do become a victim, which statistically, there's some horror statistics, I don't know how accurate there are, about the number of women who get assaulted in college. But you have, you immediately go to guilty. So women, if they're assaulted, immediately go, oh no, which rule did I break? Oh, wow. I must have done something wrong. I was told how to avoid this, but I didn't. And so there's an immediate feeling of guilt. It's the reason why it's probably one of the most oft committed, least reported crimes in the history of humanity. And and it was kind of, it was an eye opener for me as a guy.
Yeah,
you know?
No, that is crazy. But you know, it's interesting. I watch a lot of the crime. I mean, that's why I like your movies. A lot of the crime, documentaries and crime stuff. Now they have all the with the body cameras, and they put it all together.
Oh, yeah. Or they just put out the raw body camera footage. That's the whole genre.
But I read something that most women get killed by someone they know. Most men get killed by someone they don't know.
Interesting. Yeah.
So think about that. Women are more apt to be hurt by somebody in their life that's a part of their life, and men.
I think this is what was confusing about this case and the video footage in Raw Deal, which is that the perception of rape is the masked man in the bushes, stranger rape, and that is probably the least occurring. It's mostly acquaintance rape or date rape. You are more likely, to your point, for women to be victimized by someone that they know. It's also what creates that muddy area of, will I be believed? Right. Or also the feeling of guilt, and also pressure from a social group as well. Because sometimes you're in a group of friends, for example, in college, and if one of the guys assumes consent or assaults one of the women, it becomes this social pressure to not kind of break up the group. So I've seen a lot and heard about a lot of those situations, and people come to Raw Deal with their own baggage. I remember watching it. I mean, I'm a first-time documentary filmmaker. I'm 22 years old. We had to hustle this thing out the door in a year. We got accepted to this festival, and in months, I'd never seen snow like that before. Like, never been in, like, I've seen snow and been in snow, but like not like Utah in January or February. I didn't know what a parka was. I didn't have boots. We had to go to the only Burlington coat factory was in those days was up at in Sunrise at the mall shaped like an alligator. Sawgrass Mills.
Sawgrass Mills.
So
That's
my mother and I had to schlep up. That was the only Burlington coat factory. So where was I going to get coat? Yeah. It was hilarious. And we had days to do it. But I went there, and I remember at the first screening, I think we had 2 or 3, I did the intro, I came out, and I was waiting in the lobby for this pack. We were the first movie to sell out all of our screenings at the festival in advance. And so I go into the lobby, quiet lobby. I mean, the screening was packed and quiet. And I see a woman who had clearly exited the theater, and she was standing against this beautiful floor-to-ceiling window, watching the snowfall outside. And she stood there the entire, I mean, at that point, over an hour. And I realized that everybody who comes to see this, I mean, this is these are the days before the trigger warning, but it gave me an idea of like why those things exist, because people bring their own experience and their own baggage and their own trauma to the table. And this woman clearly saw something in this documentary, so that what happened was I saw like her boyfriend or husband or somebody came out and met her, and then so she was waiting for him to finish watching them, but she clearly could not sit there and watch it.
I hope to watch it sometime. You know, I want to switch gears here a little bit, because I did want to talk about your activism, but I do want to talk about Screwball. I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, you haven't? That's my favorite.
I'm trying to find it.
That might be my favorite. You know, that's that's one of those things where like where Joe Rogan asked me one time like about like your favorite or your least favorite docs or whatever. I said docs are like children. You have your favorite, you just don't tell anyone which one, which one it is. But I don't prescribe to that theory.
So let me we have a connection actually.
I love Screwball. I loved it.
I haven't seen it. I really want to see it.
I loved how it turned out. Yeah.
But the Dr. Bosch
Tony,
the doctor.
Dr. T. Doctor. Hang on. Doctor. You got to do those.
Did you interview him at the office of his father's medical practice? Is that where you went?
No, we interviewed him at an office on Biscayne Boulevard in like by Morningside.
Oh, okay.
In the 30s somewhere. I don't remember whose office it was. It was a buddy of his or somebody that we knew, because we just wanted to get a nice preview.
The reason I say is because I just found out recently that his father was actually a doctor. He was my doctor. His father was my doctor for 15 years there in Coral Gables.
In fact, his doctor briefly was under investigation by the DEA because Tony, Dr. T, was using his dad's prescription pad and DEA like clearance number to prescribe these were the allegations against him, to prescribe drugs to patients and in some cases children.
Wow, that's crazy.
I love this town.
Do you know what happened after to his mother, right? You hear what happened?
I don't.
Tony's mom? Right in South Miami there.
Yes, I did. Terrible.
Right in front of the place where they were going to open. That's crazy.
Yeah, crazy.
They were going to open that store right there, and she passed away almost right in front of it.
Yeah, because he had been looking for a while to get back. I remember him saying so he was basically, what's he, one of these what do they call it, wellness, not wellness clinics, but youth, what do they call it, anti-aging. It was an anti-aging. I can't remember because it's a fake fucking thing. It's not a real thing. So anti-aging. So he was an anti-aging clinic guy, which basically meant he was he was not a licensed physician, as he likes to say, and he was putting athletes on major duty steroid and human growth hormone regimens or protocols, as he called them, and he was doing it for the biggest names in the business, including, of course,
A-Rod.
The highest paid baseball player in history, Alex Rodriguez, A-Rod, or A-Royd, as he was known during that era.
Yep.
And so, in addition to a whole slew of other really high-profile baseball players and other athletes, and then college athletes as well, Tony was working with. And so I asked him, because, where there's a will, where there's a market. If there isn't a Tony Bosch, there's going to be somebody else catering. Because he had judges, he had cops, he had people from across the spectrum in this community that were his clients.
Really?
His anti-aging clients who were looking to combat, get rid of the pooch, build muscle. Everybody had different goals, and he had a different protocol based on what your goals were. But I said to him, this is probably like a deleted scene, because I think I asked him on camera. I said, who is the new Tony Bosch? There must be a Tony Bosch out there. And I didn't expect him to name names. I didn't even expect him to know. I kind of went like, how do you find that person? And he goes, real simple. Start driving around neighborhoods, usually Southwest Miami-Dade, towards where some of the strip, look at strip malls. He goes, and look for a sign that says like anti-aging or health, or there were certain keywords that you might see on the sign. He goes, and then look for a line of cop cars from different municipalities and jurisdictions parked in front of that clinic. He goes, that's the new. I was like, that's how you can tell? Yeah, because he would have like different municipality, different squad cars from the different municipalities out front. I remember there was once, I remember a City of Miami police officer, he was also like the FOP president at the time, did a YouTube ad for one of these anti-aging clinics. I don't know anything about the clinic, if it was legit or whatever, but like it was a little kind of funny and like because Miami moment. But Screwball, ultimately, I should have led with this. My pitch for Screwball was, I got to take a deep breath for this one. But my pitch for Screwball was how the highest paid baseball player of all time, the $400 million man, Alex Rodriguez's career ended over a $4,000 debt between a cocaine-addicted fake doctor and his fake tan-addicted steroid patient.
So
who doesn't want to see that?
Explain that, because you said that in another
comedy.
You said that in another clip. But what do you mean the $4,000? So
it's ridiculous.
Bosch owed
Robert, it's ridiculous.
Who owed $4,000?
The debt was between Tony and his patient.
Okay.
Patient, I guess it's a client. We'll call it a client.
Yeah.
Because not really a patient. So his client. So his client loaned him $4,000.
Okay.
And then just went rogue. It was just like, because Tony was basically putting it right up his nose.
Oh, wow.
He's very candid about it. Like he said that for every $1,000 he got, he spent $2,000.
Wow.
It was real addict behavior. You know, he was getting tons of cash, and then he was going and blowing it in a weekend in New York or something with a girl or whatever. And so, and doing a lot of cocaine as well. And so he owed this guy money, and the guy stole from him his records. And his records were a bunch of composition books, because he didn't keep online records. He didn't keep,
no, it's nice.
That's right. He didn't keep online records. He wrote them with code names and nicknames for each of his clients into these composition books. So this guy took them and he basically brought them to the Miami New Times, who blew the whole scandal.
I forgot about
wide
that.
Open.
That's crazy.
So that's how it happened, and all over $4,000.
Man, and it all went bust. Now, where can we see Screwball? Can we still see it?
I don't know. That's a good question. I think go to cocainecowboys.com. It'll redirect you to our company website, and all the projects are there, and links to the best way of seeing them. It was on Netflix for a number of years, but it's really, I think, one of the, the criteria for why I say like something might be my favorite or my least favorite. It really isn't just the quality of the piece so much as it is like, especially with a documentary, you might set out with an idea or a vision, but we do first-person productions. There's no narrator, usually in our stuff. It's all, we string together the monologues and the testimony and the interviews of the people that we interview. And so when you do that, we only got what we get from the archive and from our interviews. So it's hard to put like our voice on there. So I measure how my favorite docs or my least favorite docs that we've made from how far the final product strayed from my original vision.
Okay.
And by the way, sometimes it could stray in a good direction, but I just mean like in terms of the story I wanted to tell, how I wanted to tell it, and how it turned out.
And did it stray a lot?
Not Screwball. Screwball turned out exactly the way I wanted, the way I hoped. Nothing ever does, by the way.
And for people that don't know, you have kids playing the parts, and then you have dubbed the voices over in a lot of pieces, right?
So there's 8-year-old kids in the cast, in the reenactment cast of the movie of Screwball. And so what happens is that we made some sports documentaries, some ESPN 30 for 30s, like Broke and the U Part 2.
Oh, you made Broke also? I didn't know you
made Broke also.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And so with the sports documentaries, it's a pretty straightforward process. You talk to the sports people and you intercut them with the sports footage. Easy peasy. That's the style. When Screwball was not a sports documentary, and I think there's like all of 12 seconds or 8 seconds of baseball game footage in the movie.
Okay.
So it's not one of those kinds of stories. It's a story that takes place in fake doctors' offices and hotel rooms and locker rooms at Live nightclub, at the Sports Grill in South Miami, at the Boca Tanning Salon in South Miami, at the Ritz-Carlton in Key Biscayne. We shot a bunch of these, by the way, at the actual locations with these 8-year-old children with mustaches and beards, with like tattoos and muscles.
I gotta see that.
With police uniforms and Yankees pinstripes. And so what's funny is that we're out in Miami, no one looked twice at us. We had a bunch of kids in Live nightclub with like a baby pit bull, with the ball cap.
I saw the picture
ridiculous.
Of that.
It was hilarious. And so the problem is that when you're shooting something like this, you need B-roll. You need to cut to something. So we don't have sports footage because they're not talking about a baseball game. They're talking about some shady shit that went down at a hotel room in Tampa, for example. So what do? We knew we were going to have to do reenactments. Reenactments, I think, are tough and they suck and they're weird and they're kind of cheesy. You cast what we call backers, where you only see like in some cases you only see people's actors like from behind, hand shaking, really like shallow depth of field, and like, so I had this idea kicking around from a couple projects in the past. One was an off-Broadway musical called A Very Merry Unauthorized Children's Scientology Pageant, which was a Christmas pageant. But instead of the story of Jesus, it was the story of L. Ron Hubbard, the founder of Scientology, the author of Dianetics. And it was performed like a Christmas pageant would be by elementary school children in this musical. It was brilliant. And then there was the Sky's the Limit music video that Spike Jonze directed for Biggie and Bad Boy, 92, 93. It was right after Biggie had died and was murdered. And they were releasing this posthumous record and video, but Biggie was obviously dead. So Spike Jonze lip synced it with Baby Biggie, Baby Puffy, Baby Busta Rhymes, baby, Mary J. Blige, Baby Little Kim. He had like 8, 9-year-old kids, but all dressed, all blinged out like it was a straight up 90s Bad Boy music video. They were riding in like the Maybach, and then they were in the hot tub. It was brilliant. This gorgeous mansion, but they were all children. It was amazing. So these were like sort of the ideas that one night me and my friend Jack Daniels came up with when I was brainstorming. What do we do? And I was listening actually to Tony Bosch and Porter Fisher, who was the patient or the client who went rogue on him and outed him. And I was listening to them talk. And in the interviews, they spoke like scripts or like actors. Or like, so one night, I was like, okay, exterior night. I'm at Tony's office. And I go inside. Porter enters the office. And I say to him, Porter said, you owe me $4,000. And Tony says to me, I don't owe you shit. And I said it. And then you go to Tony, and Tony's like, this guy comes into my office and he says, you owe me all this money. And I say, go fuck yourself. And I realize, they talk like in scenes. And so when you're listening to that, you're like, there's dialogue built into, because they're like, he said, then he said, and then she said. So I said, we could drunk history this. And if you ever saw the show Drunk History, it's where someone gets shit-faced and then tells a story that they know of from history. About like the Emancipation Proclamation. And they very drunkenly, and they're usually stand-up comics or comedic actors, and they very drunkenly and hilariously tell the story. And then they do reenactments with famous comedic actors who lip sync the drunken, slurred storytelling. So that was my thought, was that we would lip sync, the 8-year-olds and 9-year-olds would lip sync the actual interview dialogue from our subjects live on set. And that's what we did.
I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to see it.
That one, I'll send you a link.
Yeah. Well, I want to touch on pace. We had a few minutes left. I want to touch upon your activism because, and I've heard you say that you do your activism. It's kind of your hobby and you like it. and that sounded crazy to me. To go to City Hall.
Because it's crazy.
I've seen you at Gable City Hall. I saw you on TV with, calling out our mayor, Vicente Lago. And I've seen you at Miami City Hall. I can't see how that's fun. First of all,
I've got 32 more municipalities to get to in the county.
Right. Yeah. But let me ask you, because you have said, and I've kind of followed you enough to know that you supported people before you didn't support them. And I've heard you say, well, you got to hold them to the fire, and that's fine. And I will call them out on what specifically they don't do, which I think is great. Tell me what happened, say, I don't understand. For an Eileen Higgins. Did you support Eileen Higgins before? No. Oh, you never supported.
I'm sorry, that's not true. I supported Eileen Higgins in 2017 when she first ran. When she first ran for county commissioner, she was running against Zurera Barrero, Bruno Barrero's wife,
Bruno's wife,
which was ludicrous, and Alex Diaz-La Portilla, if I'm not mistaken.
I had a dream about Bruno last night. That's
my God.
Scary. Is that scary?
Should we pause this?
No, it wasn't. No, it was just he happened to be in my dream. I've seen too many of it.
Should we mute the mics? Are you okay?
Too many Instagram things of him. I met Bruno a long time.
It's very erotic. Yeah. So, but this whole idea of like running your spouse or running your sibling or running these dynastic political crime families that have held this community hostage for generations. You know, the Suarezes, the Carollos, the Hardimans, the Diaz-Laportillas, the Hijo de Putas. Like, it goes on and on and on.
Who's that one? Who's the last one?
It's just someone they're all over Hialeah. So, so, and Miami, actually. So the idea that, like, the entirety of this candidate's experience was her husband had just been the outgoing. This is
Bruno's wife.
Yeah, like that was her sole qualification, is that she was married to a county commissioner. Like, get out of here with that.
There's a lot of a lot of people doing that.
But they always talk, like Dennis Moss's wife for a while was teasing.
Really? I didn't know that.
It was teasing a possible run, but she was so busy grifting at the county and stealing our money. And now she has like a pension with her no-show job. Yeah, like these grifters and ghouls that just you prey on us.
And now, getting back to Eileen Higgins, what is she? Has she doing a bad job? In your opinion?
Oh, she's not doing a bad job. She's doing a terrible job.
Oh, really?
And most importantly, she's a liar. Everything she promised to do during her campaign last year, she has completely ignored or done the exact opposite of. Like she said, she ran on some sort of fiscal responsibility platform where she was going to come in and identify the waste, fraud, and abuse, and she was going to take a look at the inflated budget, which had doubled at the city over 5 years. She's the one that kept pointing out
those issues.
This statistic. She was accurate, and she was going to rein in some of the irresponsible spending and some of the Miami mafiosos. She has done the exact opposite. First thing she did was increase her own office's budget, that of the mayor, by almost 30%.
Really?
Boom.
I don't know.
Not only did she not highlight a single, do a single audit or deep dive, as she kept promising, into both the city budget and the Miami Forever bond, but she did the opposite. The commission just a few months ago did a mid-year budget increase for 2025-26. So forget the fact that we had budget hearings last year and community meetings and got input. They said, fuck all that. And in the middle of this year, leading into their next budget period for next year, you can't trust anything these folks say or do, because they increased the budget this year.
They do that every year.
By 47. They need to stop. Yeah. And Eileen Higgins said she would stop it. Okay, so they not only didn't cut the budget, they increased the current year's budget. Then they increased the first responders' pension obligation. By how much? We don't know. They passed it without any economic investigation or study or figures. They just passed it. Then they passed a $150 million, I think, bond initiative for leased vehicles in the city just a few weeks ago. And then the mayor's initiative. I interviewed the mayor for nearly an hour, face-to-face, on my podcast last year, towards the beginning of the campaign cycle. I went to and watched countless candidate forums. I watched her in countless interviews. Never once did she say, the first thing I'm going to do when I become mayor is ask for a $450 million credit card and double the debt of the city. Never said it once. How do you bury the lead like that? Your first order of business is to call for the largest bond in the history of the city. The same year, on the same ballot, that people are going to go out and vote to cap homestead exempt, to cap property tax on homestead exemption property. So on the same ballot, we're going to be cutting the major revenue stream of the municipality and voting to double the debt. The same year, incidentally, that the Marlins Park boondoggle bonds come due for the city of Miami, they owe $230 million, I believe, on a $103 million loan that they made, that are now, balloon payments begin now. You have all kinds of chickens coming home to roost, and they just, I've never seen anything like it. And more despicably is you had the three phony fiscal conservative Republicans vote for this boondoggle, this billion-dollar boondoggle, and the only two real fiscal conservatives on the dais are the quote-unquote Democrats. Like, so
Escalon, who is it? Pardo and Christine?
Caveman Commissioner Miguel Gabella, Ooga Booga. You had Mr. Pink, Ralph Rosado, who's going to get his ass kicked if Manny Morales runs against him. And you have Rolando Escalona, who 11 years ago was in communist Cuba and is now making multi-billion-dollar decisions and looks like a babe in the woods. Okay, like literally, you want to give him the shit from Shinola lesson. Has no idea. By the way, seems like a decent enough guy, but completely out of his depth. So you got a guy who was a general manager of a restaurant. You've got a Jaguar parts salesman, okay, who may not have graduated high school, and you've got Ralph Rosado. This is the brain trust that is making multi-billion-dollar decisions for the future of this city that will put our great-grandchildren in debt.
Wow.
It's an arroz con membro over there.
How much? We're almost out of time. This has been great.
We're just getting warmed up.
We could talk forever, and I could talk to you about politics forever. I actually worked in government for almost 7 years in the city of Miami, and I can tell you off the record some stories. And
why start now?
Yeah,
you've already told us about your Bruno Barrero dreams. Let's talk about.
We were talking about the half penny sales tax. Yeah. That's what we were talking about. That's another whole thing. So, I could talk about transportation.
Bottom line, but I did not support Eileen Higgins last year because I saw the writing on the wall. She's a Christian overt political puppet. He is her puppeteer. I think it was he already has his corrupt clause as an unregistered lobbyist in the clutches of the $14+ billion county budget because, Daniela Levine Cava does not go to the restroom unless she checks with Christian Overt first. Does not say a peep, does not do a thing unless Christian Overt approves it. Okay? And that's true of everyone in her office. So he's not just involved in her campaigning. He's involved in her politics and in her office. Jimmy Morales was one of the worst hires in the history of the county. And then she.
Why do you say that?
Oh, are you kidding?
I'm curious.
Look at his entire record as city manager in Miami Beach. He was a corrupt embarrassment. Okay, and I told her I had the text messages with Daniela Levine Cava. I'll read them to you. I'll show them to you. I posted them online. I told her before I endorsed her in 2020. Okay. Right, was the first time. Yeah, 2020. Elaine DeValle posted a blog that Jimmy Morales was going to be retiring or resigning from city manager at Miami Beach to inevitably run what everyone assumed would be the Daniela Levine Cava administration. I texted Daniela Levine Cava. I said, is this true that you are going to hire Jimmy Morales? Because if it is disqualifying. That's what I wrote her. And she said something to the effect of, I'm focused on the campaign. And I wrote back, that's not a no. And then she's like, I think I'll make you proud. What I should have written back was, that's a yes. But instead, I had faith. I didn't trust, but I had faith in her. And the first thing she did when she got elected was hire Jimmy Morales. And I immediately posted, I have a thread on Twitter. I don't know how long it is, 20 tweets from October. No, I mean, this would be November, December of 2020. Why this was a terrible mistake. The NAACP immediately put out a statement. H.T. Smith put out a statement talking about what a terrible error this was.
To hire Jimmy? Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
NAACP, I didn't know that.
Immediately, okay? Because of the problems he had with the black community and with the police department at the city of Miami Beach. The way he was prioritizing anti-flooding pumps to Mayor Phil Levine, Jeffrey Epstein's best friend. Mayor Phil Levine's only the blocks where Phil Levine owned property were they putting multi-million-dollar anti-flooding pumps. That was Jimmy, because Jimmy was his do boy. I outlined a litany of issues that Jimmy had, including the execution of unarmed men in the city of Miami Beach by Miami Beach police officers that went covered up or without accountability in the department when he was there. Example after example. And so I immediately and I told people to vote for Daniela Levine Cava, which is why I felt an obligation to call her out when she screwed up, which was the first thing she did. And then the idea that it was somehow Jimmy Morales' fault, that Daniela Levine Cava and Christian Overt didn't know about this scheme to overpay for this property at the port of
for the pump,
the port, the fuel depot. Get out of here. And then she fires. By the way, the woman at Port Miami was doing a terrible job. She deserves to be fired. Jimmy Morales doing a terrible job. He never should have been hired. But the idea that they somehow went rogue and made and screwed this up, and that Danielle Cohen Higgins knew about it. Eileen Higgins was the county commissioner in the district that includes the port. She knew about, all of them knew about, Anthony Rodriguez knew about it. They didn't, whether they were in on the scheme to overpay for this property later, or they just dropped the ball. Is it incompetence or is it corruption?
Who knows?
Who cares also?
Yeah, who cares?
Either way, they shouldn't have their jobs.
Yeah. Well, you were definitely informed a lot more than I am.
I think the podcast is starting now. I feel like we should cut out everything. We should cut out everything that happened before and just start the conversation.
We should just talk about the mutual enemies, political enemies that we have, which are few.
I don't have any enemies. By the way, they might consider No, they might consider me enemies, but I just call balls and strikes. That's like saying the umpire is the enemy.
Well, that's what I'm saying that you have or that I have. It's not an enemy to me because I don't think about it.
There's a saying, you are the company you keep. I say proudly, judge me by my enemies. Look at the people who hate me, and I think that says something about my character.
Good point.
I think that says something about, people like, you're the opposition, and I'm like, what is the opposition to truth? Because that's what they would be then. Right. If they're against truth-telling, that seems to be the anathema. Like, you literally go somewhere and start telling the truth, and you see they're like, it's like, mogwais fed after midnight. They start twitching and they start getting stuttering and they start, their mouths get all dry. And
let me ask you, we need to wrap up, I think, here now, but who's good? What's a good politician in Miami? Are there any real good ones now?
Art Thiel.
Oh, God. Because he's dead?
Doing some of his best work now, if you ask me. And he had pride and self-respect, Robert.
Why is that? Self-respect?
Yeah.
Why? Because he ended it?
He did the right thing.
Oh, man. No, is there any seriously, is there any good politician now that you think is doing a good job?
People that, I like in Orlando, I like Carlos Smith and Anna Escamani.
Nobody here locally?
I like, where here?
Miami-Dade County?
No, I thought you meant in the United States.
No, I thought you meant Miami-Dade County.
You meant Miami-Dade.
Miami-Dade County.
The great thing about Miami is it's so close to the United States.
Exactly.
Who's not so bad? South Miami here, Javier Fernandez. He's one of my favorite land use attorneys. When it comes to real estate hucksters and lobbyists, he's one of my. I see him in the city of Miami all the time, and I go, "Who's paying you to be here today, Mr. Mayor?" But I think overall he's like a decent, because I think it's not enough to mean well. And I told this to a city commissioner the other day who said something so stupid to me. He said, "Do you really think I wanted to vote for that?" And I'm like, "You did." I'm like, it doesn't matter what you say or how you feel. It only matters what you do.
Exactly.
It only matters how you vote. I don't care what you want. I'm like, I didn't see a gun to your head at that commission meeting when you voted for that terrible, terrible thing and betrayed your constituents. Literally went back on one of your biggest campaign promises, Rolando Escalona. So, but I don't want to name any names. I have Tourette's, though, is the other problem. So, no, but again, is he my enemy? No, I just told the truth about him. He voted to give Joe Carollo $770,000 when Joe Carollo owes the taxpayers millions of dollars.
Yeah.
He voted to do that. They all did. That's disqualifying, in my opinion, when you ran against the Carollo cabal, when you ran on a platform to end Carollo corruption, and now Rolando Escalona is a co-conspirator in Carollo corruption. Shame on you. And don't tell me, do you think I wanted to? And Eileen Higgins, what a payaso up there going, everybody hold your noses and vote. I'm like, how about go fuck yourself? How about vote no? Vote your conscience.
Yeah,
do the right thing.
Exactly.
No, you have to, because your city attorney lied to you. George Weissong is a liar. Okay, Rachel Dooley is a liar. Kevin Jones is a liar. They should fire them and report them to the Florida bar is what they should do at the city of Miami. And their outside counsel. It's a grift, dude. These outside counsel, counsel
that
grift,
I've seen that.
It's theft.
Yes. The Gables is doing that right now. A lot of them.
It is robbery.
Yeah.
Any citizen who sits idly by, okay, who allows this outside counsel grift to go on, you are being robbed.
Yeah.
They are stealing. The city is stealing from you. It's not it's the lawyers per se. The city who is allowing it to happen. It's crazy.
Well, any last words?
I love this town.
Yeah, I know. I know you're from here.
I love this town. We only roast the ones we love.
I have to tell you, I really appreciate that, and this is what you did, that you put your production company here, and I've heard you say that, and that's great that you did, because you didn't have to, right? You
probably shouldn't have.
Well, I mean, I think it's good, right?
I wouldn't be dealing with this bullshit. I'd probably have some money, and I'd be chilling and working and not have time for any of this nonsense, right?
Yeah. Well,
so
Well, I guess you're gonna go and relax and go to another commission meeting next week, and that's your hobby.
Yeah, we have county the budget town halls, right?
Oh, that's right.
Which are in very weird locations. I don't know if you noticed. No. Daniela picked locations where I think she knew she would minimize turnout. It's really sketchy.
No.
But not surprising. See, I like to say about this town, really the whole state of Florida, is that I'm rarely shocked but regularly disappointed.
That's Miami for you.
That's Miami.
And let me plug your podcast.
Because Miami.
Because Miami.
Because Miami.com.
Okay. Yeah. And what's your next project? What are you working on now?
The next city hallway. Next city commission.
Besides your hobby, what kind of work?
I actually have a very exciting project to talk about, which I won't talk about. Okay. I can't talk about yet, other than to say that, do you remember what year Cocaine Cowboys came out?
2006.
So do you know what anniversary is this year?
20th.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So I'll leave it at that.
Good.
And just say that there's some special plans coming up.
Fantastic. Well, listen, we've had a great conversation. This has been the longest podcast. I got permission to go longer because I knew you like to, do a longer form, and you have opinions, so that's wonderful. Thank you. It's been a real pleasure.
Next
Billy
time we'll
Corben.
Start with politics.
Yeah, we could talk a long time just with politics. And thank you all for joining us here on Localized Miami and Community Newspapers. I'm Robert Ruano. My guest, Billy Corben, filmmaker, raconteur, and provocateur, I think, too, right? Is that pronounced right? Raconteur? Raconteur. Okay, that's your name of your company. Yeah. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. And I think next week we have Chris Roberts from Bean Automotive Group will be joining us. Thank you, Billy. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.